Hello, gorgeous. Welcome to another episode of Successful Witches, our podcast where we are obsessed with all things indie romance, with spice, with smut, with the ultimate must-have accessory of happily ever after. I'm your host, Elliot Rose. I write spicy paranormal romance, and I cannot wait to introduce you to our beautiful guest this week, who is an incredible indie romance author. I'm so excited to bring you on this episode the one and only Emily Rath, who is an international best-selling author of both fantasy and romance novels. Her works include the Amazon chart topping, best-selling, viral sensation of the Jacksonville Rays Hockey romance series, and also her Second Son's Regency romance series. You will probably know her best for Pucking Around, which has gone absolutely viral, as it should. It is amazing. I can't wait to dive into this chat and have you join us on this episode. Thank you so much to our beautiful Emily for coming and joining us on Successful Witches. I am so amped and so stoked that we got to hook up for this call in the midst of your wild whirlwind of things going on. So thank you so much for being here.
Yes, it has been whirlwind is right. As in the moment of us recording this, I'm prepping for a hurricane, quite literally. So we've got, Rachel, our hurricane, and then I have literal hurricane headed this way. I do live in Jacksonville where the books are set. So hopefully it should be okay. It should just be some wind and rain, but
yeah. So we've not only in the kind of like, not bad chaotic, but like generally chaotic time of like book release, all the things happening, all the schedule being like packed with all the things. We've got like Mother Nature's just coming along, and of course like blue moon, full moon this week as well. So it's just like all the things happening.
Yes. Well, and then like my faithful car died. Well, it hasn't died, but the transmission is totally shot. And so we basically found out that, you get that call when it's in the shop and they're like, okay, so to replace what's broken will cost more than what the car is worth. And so you get to have, it's like we were so confident we had like 2 more years left in this car because we thought the other one would crap out first. So we're like we can do this like that's not the problem child, where it's like you're not the problem child, so I won't pay attention, and then it's like you went first. No. So had to add with the rest of the whirlwind. It's like car shopping I definitely didn't want to do in the middle of my release week. But this too shall pass. We're doing okay. We're gonna get through it.
Yeah. And I think in as you say, it's like in true indie author and beyond fashion, like it is one of those journeys where we just have like all the things happen.
Yes.
We just roll with it.
Yeah, I joke so often with my process, like with my writing process, I joke that it's like feast or famine. And sometimes it feels that way with life too. It's like either everything is happening to you or nothing is happening to you. And then it's like you find ways to like, why don't I appreciate it when the nothing is happening? Like, why don't I appreciate that more when I'm like unbothered and not working, It's just like, everything or nothing.
Yeah, everything or nothing. And we have to just touch on for a moment before I start picking your brains about your author journey and all the things. Yeah. We know that Emily loves to include astrology in her books. So I have to ask, what's your big three, your sun, moon, and rising, before we get into this?
Yes. So I am a Cancer sun, Cancer moon. I know on a podcast you can't see it, but I have this little thing from IKEA that is like, I bought a whole thing of postcards. There was like 8 of them in the pack. Literally bought it for the one that had double crabs on it. Yeah. So I was like, it's perfect. So it's like I bought this whole pack of cards and just like threw out the rest. And I took the one that's got the double Cancer. So I'm Cancer sun, Cancer moon, and then I'm Libra rising. So I'm just like truly a monster of chaos of like keeping it all inside, trying to keep everything in balance. And then, it's like the interior of the crab is just screaming sounds. Yes. Like my rising sign being a Libra is like, it's all good. I'm not going to show you that anything's wrong. We've got it all in balance over here. But internal screaming is basically
like the chaos of emotions on the inside.
Yes. Yeah. But you never know it.
Yeah. Yeah. We are in perfect harmony, like balance
Yeah.
on the outside.
Yeah.
Uh,
What are your three?
so I'm a Pisces sun, Virgo moon, and Scorpio rising. So I've got all the water,
Okay.
all the deep,
Yes.
all the deep,
Yes.
and a lovely dose of perfectionism thrown in there.
Yes. My goodness. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's been a fun process. I've been surprised with in most cases, for people that don't know it's a way that I like connect to my characters
Mm,
is it was just a fun way I found in the world building stage was to assign them a star sign. And then it really helped me kind of like get to know them. And it's something that I can keep in mind and like add layers as I'm building them out. And so
mm,
I never try and make it like derivative or, I don't try and make it
yeah.
like too much like I'm just the Leo sign that she said I am. But it just helps. I feel like sometimes it just helps give them some nuance. And like I even did it in my Regency books, but I play it up stronger in the hockey books where it's actually the characters themselves will mention it of like, I'm a Virgo, or, they'll tease him like, oh, well, it's because he's a Taurus. It's been funny how many people will be like, boo, I hate that. And it's like, or whatever. It's like, I almost want to joke, like every time that happens, I want to be like, are you a Virgo?
Yeah.
Like
What's your
all my
sign, honey?
yeah, yeah. It's I'm feeling Virgo or Cappy if you're this
Yeah.
upset about me giving my characters a sign. It's just like come on. Like it's just fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it surprised me of people being like, well, boo, I don't like that she does that.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
all
like
right.
when you know you're like, yeah, it's very very interesting how people are this like assortment of energies.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's true, like it does help with, I think, like connecting us to the characters more, because we do have to know like their ways they're gonna, like, get out of a situation or whatever. Like I did that to
Yeah.
one of my characters who was like the typical like moody broody grump who like barely said two words to me, and I just kept like putting him in like difficult situations. I was like, well, you get yourself out of this, buddy. Like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Or one of my favorites is just to do, there's a couple of websites I really like where it'll be, what kind of friend do they make? Or what kind of, a
Mm,
good one is for relationships, obviously. So like romance, like the romance with a Libra, like what is it like to be involved with a Libra? But then also just like friendships. And so even if I try and not make it too derivative, it can just help sometimes for me to read that kind of stuff and be like, all right, I've got this Libra and a Scorpio. What would be their problems? And what would be, how are they seeing their way through? Like what are the challenges that they're seeing here and what are they facing? Um, and yeah, so it's just been a fun way for me to think about character and, there's ways for you to think about like, yeah, how they see the world, how they engage in relationships. And a lot of times depending on the different like sources that you look at, they'll be like, oh, a Libra should never be with this sign or whatever. And so then that can be fun if it's like, what would it be like if I put them together?
yeah. What
It's
are they
like
going to
that's
get
like
up
fun.
to if we do
Yeah.
put them into this situation? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I personally love it, nerd out on it. So it's like very, very up my very
Yeah.
up my alley. And touching on, as you mentioned, just before the Regency romance, journey, and then through into the hockey romance era. Like I love kind of talking a little bit about everyone's author journey, or like their indie author journey, particularly that they've been on.
Yeah.
And I mean, we'll touch more on like how that's progressed for you, because obviously we've had a like wild year in the Emily verse.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
But in terms of like your indie romance author journey, like I would love, can you share a little bit about how that has kind of come about for you, where that came, how that kind of blossomed for you?
Yeah.
Just so here for all the tea. Spill us all the tea.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I started my like author journey, the idea that I wanted to be a big A author, right?
Mm.
I started that journey back around like 2017. I was doing my dissertation work for my PhD, and I was living in Malawi, which is a very poor country in Southern Africa, has very limited infrastructure for things like internet. So if you're in a privileged position of coming from a country like the US, where internet can be very affordable for most people, like even me, a poor, starving college student, I could afford internet. So you'd think, what am I going to do in the evenings? I'm going to like stream Netflix and hang out, you know? You can't do that in Malawi, right? And so we reached a point, my partner and I, very quickly, we were like, if we keep using the internet at the rate at which we are using it, we will starve. You know, so it's like we're here with our 1-year-old and we have like 10 more months to go. So we really had to ration internet usage. But living in Malawi, I know it can be similar in other places, maybe where you are in the Southern Hemisphere. It's this idea of it gets dark really early. And so in Malawi, it gets like black dark by like 6:30 at night. And so if you're someone like me where you're a night owl, it's like, well, how am I going to kill the next 7 hours, you know, if I'm not going to go to bed till 1 a.m. or something. And so I started writing. And I really started hooking into the idea of like, this could be something. This, like, I want this to be something. And as soon as I got back from Malawi, I just dove like head first into trying to learn all the ins and outs of actually getting published. And at that point in time, I was 100% on a traditional publishing journey. Like you could not have told me to pursue self-publishing. I think of all the negative things you can think of with self-publishing. I had just ingrained all of that, just all that trash of like, it's not real publishing. You're not a real author. You can't make money. You know, only people who can't be real authors do that. Like, think of all the shitty things you've probably heard. And I just believed that, but I hadn't done any work on my own to understand what self-publishing really was. It's just, that's the rhetoric I heard. So I was very deeply ingrained and entrenched in that it's trad or nothing mentality. So I queried that first book that I wrote in Malawi. I queried that for about a year, got some traction, actually got an offer from a smaller publishing house, but I just knew it wasn't the right house. It wasn't the right kind of offer. That was one of the hardest decisions I made in the author journey, was when I said no to that first offer, because it's really hard when all you want is that yes, to get it and to feel like, oh, it's not the right yes, you know? But so I just kept going. I shelved that book. It's like, maybe the idea, I'll bring it out again and tweak it at a later time. Shelved it and wrote the next book, queried the next book, and just kept pushing. And it was around the time I was querying my next book that the pandemic hit. And so then it was just kind of a perfect storm of like, trapped in my house in total lockdown. The world is on fire. I am bored out of my mind. And I was like reading reverse harem books on Kindle. There was, you know, I was doing, I think it was around the time that Bridgerton came out, like that Christmas. Anyway, it was just kind of this perfect storm of things of like, I'm going to write something that's just for me. What could I write that is going to bring me the most joy in this really dark and scary time? And so I wrote a Why Choose Regency romance story. And I knew going in, if I'm going to write this, my only option is self-publishing. You know, because at that point, even then, you could not have angled that towards a traditional market. No one would have picked it up. So I was like, well, if this is what's going to make me happy, is to write this, and I want to publish it, it's going to be self-pubbed. And so that was what really kicked the journey. I was meeting at the same time. I met a lot of other authors that were doing self-publishing. I got my first Kindle Paperwhite. And so I was reading voraciously on Kindle Unlimited and seeing the quality of a lot of the self-published books. And it was just like, I could do this, you know, I could do this. There is a path here. And I just dove all in with both feet, while staying in the query trenches. So it's like, I had the traditional book that I was still querying agents while writing all these other self-pub books. So I was just pumping out my own books. And I think that's ultimately what hooked me the agent, was the kind of that circular approach to like, go out there, publish the books, get a following, you know, build out a brand, and then you look more appealing to traditional publishing. So within the first week of signing with my agent, we were selling rights. because she knew that she could, even while the book continued, the traditional book that I first approached her with continued to stay on submission. I was on submission for like 9 months with that, before we eventually sold it. So in that time, I wrote like 3 books and self-published them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a long-winded answer. I know, I'm sorry,
No,
but
I'm like eating up every moment of it, because I think it's such a valid point, right? That it's like, it doesn't have to be the all or nothing of like, if I write my first book and it doesn't get picked up, or it doesn't make it in this sort of traditional publishing sense, that I can't do anything else. Like, you just carried on and did the thing, and built the community and found the readers, and and I mean, like, what a community it has become. Like, holy shit.
I think I almost wish, because I know that there was a movement several years ago. There was a movement in traditional publishing. It was like a hashtag, I think it was hashtag what publishing paid me, right? What publishing paid me, where people were trying to be transparent about those first offers that they got, particularly in the light of us realizing just how marginalized and disincentivized BIPOC creators are, other marginalized identities, queer creators, authors, the kinds of advances they got compared to their contemporaries. But I think another one that could be useful is like, which book got me published? Because you hear, like, if there was some kind of database where people could know and understand, like, I think it was like Brandon Sanderson, it's like his 11th book he wrote was his first one published, or something like that, or like he had written 11 and it was the 6th that actually was the first that was traditionally published, and you hear all these stories all the time. Like, for me, it's like, people, like, even with Pucking Around, people were like, I cannot believe this is your first book. And it's like, it's not. Like, it's not my first book. Yeah, it's not my first book. It's not even my first published book. And even before, Beautiful Things was the first one I technically published, that wasn't my first book. I had written like 4 before that, So it's this weird thing of like, the traditionally published book that you will one day see from me will be like the 11th book in my list, but like the second one I ever wrote. It's just very strange. I feel like there's hope there for other authors of like, it might not be your first one. Not every book is going to get on a shelf, and that's okay. You learn so much through the process. I learned so much about the writing of books through writing those first. I wrote 2 in a trilogy that are on a shelf, because it's like, it's not the right time. It's not right. It can be very hard to do that, but it's just all part of the process. And it's not like you don't learn things from those books that don't get on a shelf,
Yeah. And in terms of that, like, right timing thing, like, that's such an interesting point as well, because there's an element of writing to market, right? Like, and knowing what is sort of what are the things that people are typically looking for in a season or in a particular point in time. But also, I feel like there's that element of just like, something like in the universe just conspires, because I mean, obviously, like, the point that Pucking Around came out, like, was at that kind of moment that just hockey romance had its bloom.
Yes, it was a perfect timing situation. It really was. You cannot discredit the role that things like just luck and timing can have, of like, you want to write a book that you think readers will like, you want to market it as best you can to those readers. But like, Pucking Around was supposed to be a niche book. It was supposed to be, I was doing a very risky thing that I keep doing, right? It's the same thing. My Regency books, it was Regency and Why Choose. There was no market for that. So it's like writing a hole in the market. There were practically no books in that space. Same thing with Hockey and Why Choose. There was like a perfect storm. Like, Grace McGinty released one in November 2022. Sarah Blue released one like a month later. Then I released one like 2 months later. And so you had this buildup of people being like, why choose hockey romance? Is that a thing? Oh, and then we also had Hat Trick Heart, right? Hat Trick Heart came out. Actually, Hat Trick Heart came out I think a little bit before Grace's book. So we had several, right? There was a couple that were making the market ready, and then Pucking Around came, so people were already like, oh, I read these others, then Pucking Around, and then just the fact that you had the NHL playoffs happening at the same time. So the NHL was super active on all the social media apps, because like right now you wouldn't really even know the NHL is on the apps. They're so quiet because it's the summer season.
Yeah.
But
which is hilarious for us down here because we're in like peak winter.
yeah
And we're all like so envious of like everybody off on like their summer, like, by the pool.
Summer holidays. Yeah.
But it's so fascinating to see. And as you say, like there's that element of writing what is like calling to you, right? Like, and allowing that creativity to flow. And even if that is not the thing that is the big breakout or is the big thing, like I always remember hearing, I think it might have been Sierra Simone saying it, that nothing sells your front list like your back list, right? Like, that it's like, oh no, sorry, nothing sells your back list like your front list, that it's like just keep going forward. And then all of these things, because I think that's what's been really beautiful to see is even within your community, how many people have then gone on to discover the Regency books that you've written. They've come through the hockey romance like door and then gone like, oh, there's all these other things that I want too. Megaverse.
It's been really fun to see that they'll do that, because I have a couple of different chat rooms like in my Facebook group, and so one of the chat rooms is for the Regency books, and it's hilarious that they'll go in there of a lot of it was like between Pucking Around and Pucking Wild. They were just like, I need more, like I want to read something else by Emily, or I want to feel connected to it. And it's like, I already read all the hockey stuff. And so how many people were like, I would never have picked this in a million years if it wasn't you that wrote it, And it's funny, a lot of the people that I'm reading it are like, this is better than the hockey books, and it's like, I know, right? It's like, they're just a completely different style, different story, different characters, but it's like the hockey books were written very strategically to a very specific niche market. I know the hockey romance market because I've read voraciously in hockey romance. I know the white shoes market because I've read voraciously. It's like I was writing to a niche market of hockey romance readers / white shoes readers are going to love this, right? That overlap. And so what's happened with the popularity of it is it's reached people I never expected it to reach, which is such a blessing. But it's just really put these books through their paces, or people that do not understand either of these niches being like, why is this book so long? Whereas like a lot of white shoes readers are like, white shoes books are typically like 4 books long. Are you kidding? She gypped us. Like all of these white shoes readers are like, it could have been twice as long, but since like hockey romance readers are like, this is a really long hockey romance, and white shoes readers are like, more, so it's just been so strange all around, as people that I never expected to read it have been like, what are we doing here? I've never read a white shoes, and I've never read a hockey, and I've never read a white shoes that has queer content in it, they're like, but I'm reading this. And I'm just like, oh, sweet heavens, like this is a lot for a first book.
I think I stumbled across something on TikTok one day that someone was saying that they had picked up Pucking Around thinking it was a completely different book. Like they didn't realize it was a white shoes. They knew it was hockey, didn't realize it was white shoes. And they're like, 50% of the way through this book, I am still reading.
They're like, this can't be right. I think they were looking for
cast of characters keeps growing.
I know. I think they were looking for like, don't puck me secretly, I think is what they were looking for. And like Pucking Around close enough, they got halfway through and are like, this can't be right.
But I'm like so invested now. I'm like, for the long haul.
She finished it.
I love it so much. And you're so right that it's like with white shoes, like I think as well, until you've experienced that thing of trying to write multiple characters like coming together in that kind of like romance and giving them all justice and like giving them all a voice on the page and all of that, like it is very hard to do it in a brief way. Like you genuinely have to write either a long book or go in for the series.
Or series. Yeah. If you want it to be satisfying, you know, because like, I mean, in my book alone, it's like it's four romances with 8 dynamics, you know, because you have it's MMFM. So it's like you have an MM dynamic, MF, MFM, MMF, MMF. You know, it's like you have all of these four distinct romantic relationships, to say nothing of the friendships that have to build between the characters as well, and then 8 different dynamics to display of how it's very different. It's very different when these two are with her versus when these two are with her, you know, the way they talk to each other, what they're interested in, you know. And yeah, so it's like you're just gypping people completely if you're just going to rush through it and give them 4 romances in 90,000 words. Like, how do you even do that? You know what I mean? So, but
and all
but
you
people
have to
know.
And all you have to do is like open to the front of like your books in the Jacksonville Rays series, like, and you've got the like full rundown of like the team list, the management, the like, you know, like that alone sets the scene for like how many people you are like wrangling in your head for. And I'm like, you know, I'm just sitting there like.
Well, because I think a lot of the criticism that I faced was people talking about like a contemporary romance should never be this long. And I've so appreciated readers that have kind of understood that what I'm doing feels more like fantasy, you know, of like if it was a fantasy, no one would bat an eye when you have the big world building, big characters, all these side relationships and plots going on. But we're used to, in contemporary romances and in hockey romances, I know because I read them all the time, they're much more shaved down, right? They're much more shaved down. They're simplified. And there's something that you can tie up in a nice ribbon in 80,000 words. And it's just not the way my mind or my imagination works, that it's like, yes, it is technically a contemporary romance in a hockey setting, but my style of writing and the world building I attempt to create, it really reads more like a fantasy. You know, and so it's tough though, because I have to be able to accept the criticism of I've written a fantasy-esque style book in a different market. And so it's jarring for people of like, this is not what I expected. I wanted this done in 90,000 words and you've doubled that, you know? So yeah, it's part of that is being an indie author that I get to play and I get to just be like, I'm in control here. I shall publish the double-length book, you know. But you take risks, you know, I might not have been able to get away with it. I probably would not have been able to get away with it in the trad space, but in the indie space, I can. And now that it's done so well, trad spaces want it, you know. So yeah, it's very strange. It's strange and
wonderful at the same time, because I think for every, like, because as you say, for every person that maybe it's pushed them to an edge that they maybe weren't comfortable with or like weren't expecting or whatever, like we've seen that there is just this voracious appetite within the reader community who are loving it, who are loving the fact that it is so the world building aspect within a contemporary. And I think that's the thing that, like, I know for me, you know, seeing it not only as someone who loves your books myself personally as a reader, but also as an author, like seeing how people are so invested in the characters and the worlds and they've really got to know them on that really intimate level. And I think that's something that is, there's a lot to be said for giving people the opportunity to have that. And I think you did it really beautifully with the epilogue, the bonus chapters and the epilogue that you brought out. Fucking Ever After, right? Because it's like given people that opportunity to go further with these characters. It's almost like the Netflix binge that we all want, like the more, right? Like we want to be able to go into all the added like add-ons and bonuses and extra scenes and things.
Well, I think you really have seen a trend, because for the longest time, especially like in the hockey romance market, it really was that the sweet spot was like 80,000 words. And that's all you saw were these quick one-shot, 2 people in a relationship. But I think you could see the writing on the wall of how readers are ready to accept more in terms of like length and more world building, especially two of the authors that come to mind that have just blown all expectations out of the water are like Elsie Silver with her Chestnut Spring series, which has one of those is a hockey book, right? The others being more of the cowboy romances. But then also Liz Tomford with her sports series that she's doing. So Mile High was the first one that was the hockey book. But those are both longer. Those are both well over 100,000 words. I think even close to like 120. And readers ate that up. And readers loved that feeling of having more time to sit with the characters and explore them more and get into more emotional depth, because you just can't do that. 80,000 words goes by so much faster than I think readers realize, you know? And yeah, it's just tough to do that. So I kind of saw what they were doing and was like, I think it'll be okay, you know, as I was doing one that added 3 more people to the story, you know, that it's like, all right, I think we can be okay, or 2 more people to the story. Then it's like, it's okay. This is longer, but I'm trying to do everyone justice, and I'm trying to bring out all that emotion that they're really liking in these other, you know, Liz's book and Elsie's book. And
your double cancer getting to work.
Yes.
Like, give me all the emotions.
Yes, give me all these emotions, give me all these messy emotions. But yeah, so it's been fun, it's been exciting. I mean, it's blown all expectations I could have ever imagined. I never ever imagined I'd be in this position of, you know, finally quitting my day job. This is the first time in my adult life since I was like 16 that I have had one single job. And that's actually been tough. You know, we talked about the change, like the whirlwind of change and everything, you know, like it almost kind of feels like a trauma, is how some of my readers, as we were talking about it, how they described it, of like, change, even when it's positive, can be really hard, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's been an incredibly stressful 6 months where I feel overwhelmed with gratitude, but also change is really hard. So like giving myself grace to accept both those things. Like, you can be eternally grateful for what's happened and love every minute of what's happened, but you can also feel like, holy shit, now what's happening? You know, like you're allowed to feel both those things.
What the fuck is going on right now?
Yes.
Like, as your nervous system is like having this like meltdown of like happiness, but also like, what the fuckery?
Yeah. Or just the, you know, I've talked about it a bit, of grief. Like, I loved the job that I had, and it's, again, I felt like, oh, woe is me. I have 2 jobs that I love, but I'm just trying to go full throttle on both of them. And it wasn't sustainable. And it was really hard, the grieving process I had to go through to let go of that other job, because it was 15 years of my life building towards a career of being a university professor, and feeling like you're letting your students down, or like I'm letting future generations down, or, you know, letting my family down, or whatever. But it's just like, God, you gotta make yourself happy. Who else is going to do it? You know, and like, you got to live your life for you. And it was unsustainable what I was doing both of the jobs. So
I can imagine, because I mean, like, a career, and like an academic career, right, like, is that is all encompassing. Like, you don't just switch off at 5 o'clock and go home. Like,
no, absolutely not.
Much like writing, you do not just switch off at 5 o'clock and go home.
No such thing. Well, because you can have students that are emailing you at all hours of the night. You know, if you don't get through your work, it's got to get done at some point. So it could be just, you know, grading, or, you know, whatever it is that you're doing. The pandemic changed everything. I had 1 week. It was supposed to be my spring break. I had 1 week to transition all my classes to online teaching. I had never online taught before. So I was like killing myself trying to figure out how to online teach when I had never done that, kind of basically doing it in such a way that I was like tripling my own workload because I was making it too complicated, you know, but I didn't know, and I didn't get any help. It was just like, we're all drowning. Everything's terrible. Lockdown. Don't come to school, you know? And so that was like a year of my life, going from, I was in my job for the fall semester, and then the lockdown happened. So I had 1 semester in my brand new job as a professor of like normalcy before it all changed. So it's like this change trauma, I feel like, has been happening to me for like 2.5 years, of like, oh my gosh, now I teach from home. Now I teach hybrid. Now I have to teach, but I have to be in a mask and they all have to be separated and I can't touch them and they can't, I can't hand anything to them or get anything back. So it's just been bananas.
Yeah.
And on top of all of it is like, I'm just writing my smutty Bridgerton smut.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to go have people having sex.
Yeah. It's like, just lock the door. Go right
Lock
smart.
the door.
Yes.
Leave me alone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which I also love as well, that we now like we're not leaving the academic Emily behind, because we have like, is it Dr. Smut that everyone's like started calling you?
Yeah, because I had joked about it. Yeah, I had joked about it. Or I did kind of like a heartfelt thing about it on TikTok, where it was just, that was kind of part of the grieving process, is like I went from being Dr. Emily, it's like, what do you do?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a university professor. I have 2 PhDs.
Yeah.
And to feel like people like, oh, they're going to respect me for doing that. And then now to talk about what I do, and it's like, oh, Tahiti, oh, you write mommy porn, or you write, they have these conceptions, and it's like, I also run my own business, and I also, like all this stuff but in a way, I feel like part of it is like, I've kind of earned this, because I had bought into all of it, taking it full circle to how I started this is like, when I didn't know anything about self-publishing, I believed all the bullshit too. I believed that it wasn't real. I believed that there was no way the books could be worth any value. If they were, they would have been trad published. I believed all that shit. But I didn't, I believe, I'm going to say, quote unquote, believed it, because I had not done a single moment of research on my own. It's just what you hear floating around about it. But it's like, once you're actually in it, and once you know what the heck you're talking about, you're like, I'm sorry, these are just as rigorous. You can get people that write a book and publish it in a day, but the market will show what is and is not worthwhile in most cases. So it's like, it's just as rigorous. You still have to have editors, you have cover designers, you have arc teams and data teams, and and I know all of this, but I didn't.
It's that realization that like, you might be doing it all yourself, but actually you are doing it all yourself. Whereas in traditional publishing, you would not be doing it all yourself.
It all gets done. That's actually it's been a very interesting process of like, now I have projects that are in like different stages of like, the one project is like pure indie and nothing is changing, so I'm in total control. Other projects, I'm going hybrid. And so it's like, it's some of it is staying indie, but some of it I've sold rights off to other people. And like, that is it's kind of like a mind fuck of the hardest part for me to jump in with both feet and do self-publishing was, I did not want the stress of having to do it all, because I had another full-time job. So I was like, I cannot be my own cover designer and editor and do all my own social media marketing. That's what held me back for so long, is like, I can't do all of it. So it was like, once I decided that I was going to do all of it, now I'm in this weird position where it's like, wait, you're telling me you're going to take things from me? You're telling So now it's like the control freak in me. Yeah, the control freak in me is like, you can't have it. I don't trust you. It's just like, God damn it. Now I'm in the reverse position of like, I never wanted this. And that's what held me back. Yeah. And now that I'm doing it, it's like, I don't want the trad deals. That's what's holding me back. It's like, because I don't want to go by the control. But it's very strange how it all comes full circle. And now it's like, oh, I'm a double Cancer, Libra rising, needing balance, control freak.
Yeah. This journey is full of ups and downs.
Yeah.
But carry on.
No, yeah, I have my most recent project. I have like a full trad project now. And I've had like the weirdest sense of like, it's all good. It's all like, I'm like so weirdly detached from it because I know that I can't have the control I have with the other projects, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm going to write it and I'm going to do everything they ask in terms of doing the edits and giving them a really quality product. But then it's just kind of like, I don't know what happens next. And I have to be cool with that, you know, because it's like, there's no changing it. So yeah, so it's very strange that I'm on like the farthest end of like, I have all the control. I have the middle where I'm losing control and panicking. And I have this new project where it's like, I know I'm not in control and I feel so fine with it. I'm like doing, it's like all the things at once is how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what
you're like your very own like author Venn diagram of like,
yeah,
all the places like at all
yeah. It's like, we're just going to roll with this one. We're going to see how it goes. I'm here for the vibes.
And which, of course, we have to talk about the fact that Fucking Wild has just come out at the time that we're recording this, and has come out in the midst of this new, like, growing, like, kind of expansion, but also like things are changing, and it's just that, like, you know, kind of by the nature of it, it's the book that has kind of happened in the midst of your like evolution as an author. But like, holy shit, what a book. Like I gobbled it up like as soon as she came out. And of course this is a continuation within your Jax Rays universe. But we have a male-female dynamic between our wonderful Tess and Ryan in this book, and we have to swoon and gush over them for a hot moment because they are just fabulous. And without spoiling, obviously, for our delicious readers and viewers who are tuning in, who haven't got to Fucking Wild yet, what little tidbits can you tease along for what to expect with Tess and Ryan?
So Tess is basically at a very important point in her life, right? She's at a turning point moment where it's not giving too much away to say she's essentially finally, after years, leaving her toxic marriage, right? And so in a literal and figurative sense, she physically leaves. She leaves the place where she was, and she essentially seeks refuge with the people that she loves most, which is Rachel and her now husband's partners. And so we have Tess very quickly arriving in Jacksonville and kind of picking up the pieces of her life. And in the process, running into Ryan again. So we meet Ryan Langley in Pucking Around. He's a forward on the team, sweet young Ryan. He's 22, blonde, green-eyed, baby-faced puppy, right? And he's so sweet and nice. So they meet in Pucking Around. So readers already know that, right? That they had that meet. And then they had kind of a little clandestine meeting that happened a little bit later on that beach day. So she hasn't seen him for a couple of months. And then they find out that they are going to be in close proximity, you know? And it just kind of rolls from there. It's a very quick story for them. The plot is moving quickly. Time is moving quickly. Really only about a month passes in the whole book. Which was fun. It has its challenges, but it's also fun to just feel like we're just moving. Everything is escalating. But it's a ton of fun. We've got Tess, the confident 33-year-old lawyer, sex positive, body positive, and Ryan, the sweet hockey puppy that is up for anything.
And who has been like besotted since like first like initial glimpse of Tess like on the beach back in Fucking Around.
But he's so I joke that it's like he might look more like a golden retriever, but Jake actually is more of an actual golden retriever, because Ryan being Ryan is a Virgo, right? So Tess is a Gemini and Ryan is a Virgo. Being more of the Virgo that he is, he's a little bit slower, right? Slower to accept. He doesn't want to believe in like insta love or like you're the one, you know. Like Jake is the golden retriever Taurus that is just like, I found you, I've picked you, I'm not changing my mind, you know. Whereas Ryan is much more of like, well, let's think about this, let's be rational about this. It's lust, it's not love. It's, you know, I'm clearly attracted to you like a magnet, you know, but it's not, you know. So he's constantly trying to be like, this this is crazy. Don't be crazy. Like, I'm
Yeah.
clearly attracted to her, as we move forward. And he just keeps trying to play it cool, but also not play it cool. Like he doesn't play it cool very well, but
No.
is trying a little bit to play it cool. Like,
yeah. He's like the ultimate, like he's playing it cool on the outside, but like on the inside, he's like screaming.
Yeah, like, oh my God, I just wanted to touch my hand.
Yeah, she looked at me.
She looked at me. Yeah. Well, because I joke that it's like he likes Taylor Swift music, right? And so I joke, like, one of the tags that I put in it is like, all the Taylor Swift songs are his, So he's this Virgo that is also a hopeless romantic.
Yes.
So he's we have a lot of fun.
Yeah, and there's such a beautiful dynamic because it is like, and like obviously this was going to be a very, very different book to book one. But I love that it is, like I love that it is its own love story and it's its own journey, and it's and I think you were saying like you wrote it like during cancer season, so it's like an emotional journey.
It's very emotional. It's like I wrote it, I did my heaviest editing on it during cancer season, published it during Leo season, so it's like now it's like she's the moment, it's like here we are. So it's like the Gemini and the Virgo falling in love in cancer, written during cancer season. It was a lot. It was really emotional. I think I can't do other, like, in my process. I sometimes joke, but it's not funny when I'm talking about like cheapest therapy I've ever had. It's not cheap. Like, it's not cheap, but it's tough. So there's a lot of, I think this book, the book in my backlist that carries the most for me in terms of trauma that I put into it, or feelings, or lived experiences, would be Whiskey and Sen, which is my MMO Megaverse. But then there's this one, right? Pucking Wild comes in very close, of like, sometimes that's what you need your art to do, is sometimes your art needs to carry things that you are tired of carrying. Right. Or it needs to open doors that you had shut, that you wanted to stay shut. And the art is like, no, we're going to open that door and you're going to sit in it for a minute. So I cried a lot. I cried a lot writing this book. I cried a lot editing it. And so, it felt very validating just how many, like, on my ARC team, just how many people on my ARC team only made it to the dedication before they were crying. I'm like, I'm going to get you. Like, it's all downhill from here. Like, keep the tissues. But it's like, whew, this book carries a lot for me. So I don't know if that sells it for people or not. Get ready to cry, bitches.
Yeah, like I'm gonna make you horny and sad. Like,
and then happy, right? And you will be happy too, I promise. But
and I really love that. Like, again, not like there is no spoiler in that there's a happily ever after, obviously. But like, I'll just say for me personally, like, it was just that ending is just like such feel good feels. Like, it's like you know what's coming, but you at the same time are like fully the whole like giggling at your Kindle kind of like, like moment. It's very, very cute, like at the end.
So it's fun. I was extremely nervous. This was the hardest release. I know that you were talking about, you've got a release coming up too. This one was the hardest for me, just because it was such a transition from book one, and I knew it would be, but just trying to, like, I wanted my readers to feel prepared that it's like, it's not going to be the Prices again. They are not the POV characters, and this is not going to be the same book, because these characters are not in the same place in their lives, and I felt so grateful that each time I was showing my own anxiety of like, please give it a chance, all my readers were like, we want it to be different. We don't want to just read something that reads the same as Pucking Around. They're like, we're okay. You're okay, and we're okay, and we want it to be different. I was like, oh, thank God, thank you so much. But you just worry. You worry when it's like, how much people loved the first characters. So to go in knowing they're not there anymore can be hard. Or like, even so many of my readers in their reviews are like, I didn't think I would like this. because it wasn't, like they're admitting that it's like, I had reservations because it wasn't the prices and I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
But I fell in love with Tess and Ryan anyway, so that kind of thing. So it's like, oh my gosh, thank goodness.
And because we got that like glimpse of their chemistry, like essentially in book one, and then you beautifully bring, like, for as much as like, they are a big unit of like family to bring across into Pucking Wild, you do it in a really beautiful way that we get like just enough of like seeing that they are very involved in both Tess and Ryan's life. But we don't, it's not focused on them, but we get enough of a taste of them. And of course we get like our beautiful broody Finn like gets to kind of have his moment, like, in a way.
Well, I feel like it was important. I really appreciated it when a reader kind of like hit it on the nose that in Pucking Wild, what you see, Ilmari is probably the largest main character in the book. And I feel like what was so important for his trajectory over the series, right? Because all these characters are going to be staying in the series and they'll be around, is that in Pucking Around, you didn't get hardly any scenes of Ilmari talking to anyone that was not the prices, and so you didn't get to see, what is he like as a friend? What is he like as a confidant to someone he's not romantically attached to? Does he have like, and he deserved that, right? Because with all of the others, you could see it's like Jake has his sister, Rachel has her brother and the family, and Rachel had Tess. And, you saw the ways that they had friends and connections, and Omari was just like alone. And so I really liked the idea of letting him have this book in ways that the others will have, probably Jake and Kay will have bigger scenes in book 3. But it felt like he needed it. He needed space on a page to be someone's friend. And so that's why I wanted to give it to him.
Yeah. And I love that because it does feel like a good, like a really solid like character journey for him. Because in book 1, like he was like, the classic, I am an island, I need no one. Like, and Rachel just came in with like her like, what is it, like an oyster knife or whatever, and just like flipped open the shell.
Like, and you're coming with me now. I live in this hermit crab shell too. I live in here too.
And so we get that, and we get like the beautiful dynamic. So it is very, very cool. And you also masterfully tease and edge us with like the preview of like the next book coming, which I'm going to leave that as like the treat for everyone, that you need to get Pucking Wild to see what is like teased for future things. And of course, if you're already following Emily at the time this comes out, you will know the know.
Pucking Sweet is going to be book 3. It'll be Poppy's book, and I jokingly call it my sexy cats in a bag book. It's like we got these 3 sexy cats and they're in a bag. It's like it's gonna be a lot of fun. It's like enemies to lovers, friends to lovers, workplace romance, sexy cats in a bag. It's gonna be so much.
That is like, from what I've already seen of like obviously like reading Pucking Wild and seeing the teasers, like that is absolutely the energy that it's giving off. Well, because like I have the blurb ready to go, and so I've been waiting. I just wanted to give it a couple of weeks of let Pucking Wild be out, and then I'll put the blurb up for book 3. And I have some art and stuff like that I'll release. It's like I'm ready to go with all this different stuff for book 3, but I'm just like sitting on it of like, let's give Pucking Wild a minute. Let's read it. Let's enjoy it. Let's see all of the breadcrumbs that I leave for you for book 3. And then I'll post it. But it's fun. Because it is that thing, as you say, that it's also intertwined, that it's like you just want to like gush and like give everyone like, this is what's coming, like, this is the like expansion of this universe and these characters. But it is giving Tess and Ryan their moment to just kind of like hog the limelight unapologetically.
Which is a ton of fun. Or like, because already people are like, the second they finish Pucking Wild, they're like, where's the next Pucking Ever After? And it's like, can we all breathe? It's like it was back to school. Like I had to get my kid back to school. Car broke, literal hurricane. Like all this stuff. It's like, well, let Emily breathe. I'll get it to you. Like, you know that I write fast, so I have all the ideas. And part of it too is like, you need to kind of wait. I needed to wait. I needed to see what reception was. I needed to see, you know, how people connected with Tess and Ryan to help me gauge what kind of scene I feel like readers want the most, what kind of scene they'd be like hungry for, you know. So that's been part of the fun, is like, you release the book and then you just sit back and you let the readers have it a little bit, and you let stuff boil to the surface of like, oh, I wish we could see this, or like, if only, you know, because a lot of times the readers do that anyway, if they daydream about what they want the futures to be. Like, I have people in my DMs all the time, even with the prices still, like the book came out back in March, but still people will come into my DMs and be like, just in case you need ideas, you know, for Plucking Ever After. It's like, this is what I would love to see. Like, I probably every day, probably like at least once a day, people are telling me their ideas of what they want to see in Happily Ever After content, which is so cool that like they're still thinking about them, you know, like, I'm still thinking about Caleb and I wish you would write a chapter about this, you know. So that's fun. So we'll see how they feel about Tess and Ryan, and then I'm gonna I already know the chapters that I want to write for the Price family.
Well, I like, as hand on heart for me personally, like, I appreciate any moment we get more of Daddy K, because like,
I think there's gonna be two chapters where he's definitely in them. Though there's gonna be one of him and Rachel, and then there's gonna be one that the only teaser I've given for this so far is that the chapter is Caleb has to go to the dentist. and then he needs help because he's high as a kite. So he needs help getting home. And so it's like, just imagine what high Caleb could get up to. So
sold. Take my money. Done.
we're gonna have a ton of fun. That's the one that it's like sitting, I don't know if you ever do this when you're thinking about like, where are my projects? Like, sometimes you have, like, I always use my head as a visual, so you can't see in a podcast, but I'm like randomly touching my head right now. But so it'll be like, if the idea is like back here, like back in the back of my head, it's like, she's not ready yet. You know, it's like, she's still mulling of like, you know, we were joking before we went live of like, I might write a demon book, you know, so it's like, I'm drafting, I'm getting names for things. It sits back here. But then it's like, as it creeps for more and more forward in my brain to be like, the characters talk to themselves inside my head, or, you know, it's like, I'm seeing visuals of the rooms that they're in or whatever. Then it's like, okay, you're ready to come out. And the Caleb dentist chapter is like right there of like, I was having flashes of it yesterday as I was driving. And so I was like, oh, he's ready. I think he's ready to come. I'm just like waiting for, I think it'll be maybe a quiet night this week that'll be like, come on, Caleb, let's do this. You know, you're ready.
That's so good. Like, that's just already like the possibilities of that. So fucking good. Like, I could honestly keep you here talking about this all day, but we obviously have to give a little bit of where can everybody come and they can get in your world and find all of this delicious goodness that you've got going on, because as you've alluded to, you've got the kind of like happily ever after like bonus content that comes, like, because is there a volume 2 coming of the
volume 2 will be coming this fall, for sure. So I'm kind of deep in some edits right now with another project, and I really have to prioritize that. So it'll be I'm ready to write it, and I'm going to write it, but just give me a bit of time. I also have in September a big family trip that I'm taking, so I'll be gone for about 13 days. I'm very excited about that. It'll be, you know, research for another book, so stay tuned for that. But so I've just got a lot going on. I know that I'm going to get it done. I know what the chapters are going to be, but so that should be this fall. Should be Pucking Ever After volume 2. And then we also have To Tide You Over, even if some kind of cataclysm happens and I push it to closer to winter, we've got audiobook releases. So we're going to have, starting in October, we're going to have Pucking Around, Pucking Wild, That One Night. Those are all coming out in audio. We'll have Pucking Ever After volume 2. we'll have to see how everything's going, potentially an expanded version of Lemongrass, which is the
cool.
novella for Harrison Filmshy. So there is a lot to tide us over, to get us through the next several months. Plenty to do and read and enjoy. But yeah, I want it to be quality rather than speed it and get it out to you. So I really do need to focus on these other edits here for the next couple of weeks, because the clock is ticking on that. So yeah, edits come first, then really diving into Pucking Ever After and making sure that's as good as that can be. I've already drafted some of it, but yeah, just wanting to get it all out there.
And as you say, it's like there is a lot. There is so many good things. There is so much coming that obviously, like, we know that there's lots of other projects that, like, you haven't even mentioned that are like coming.
Yeah, projects I have not
in the
even
brain.
mentioned. yeah. So projects I've not even mentioned that you will be hearing more about soon, that you will get to get excited over soon. So yeah, it's going to be a busy next couple of years in the Emily verse as we're charting everything out. We've got everything from continued hockey romances to adult fantasies to potentially my first Monster Paranormal adventure romance series that you're going to hear more about, because the trip that I'm doing in September is part of an adventure romance duet that I'm very determined to write. I've got about 40,000 words of that written. So yeah, check me out on my socials. I'm super active on TikTok in particular at Emily Rath Books, and then Instagram, Emily Rath Author. Boo, Instagram took my Emily Rath Books down. It was like around Halloween last year. I was part of the purge that happened, and I've just never been back. So Emily Rath Author on Instagram, Emily Rath Books, literally everywhere else. I have a Twitter. Don't follow me there. I never use it. I just claimed the domain name. So don't follow Twitter. I have a Facebook group as well. You can join the Facebook group. I do giveaways in there. I tend to go live quite often in there, and talk to people there and give them kind of behind the scenes first looks at art, first looks at like sneak peeks of stuff. Happens in the Facebook group.
And I can attest that the Facebook group is wonderful, because I'm in there as well, like saying hi to everyone, because it's like it's really a beautiful community that's in there, that really
nice group. We've been able to really cultivate a nice group in the Facebook group, because I was very nervous about it, because Facebook can be the worst. Like, I don't know how else to put it. Those of us that are in the bookish communities know, right? Like, Facebook can be the literal worst. And so I've been so thankful that we've been able to cultivate in my group, at least, a very positive vibe, very positive, very welcoming vibe. So I actually enjoy being on Facebook if I'm in the confines of that group. So
and I love the way you do it as well, like, just so people know that your team are very good at, like, managing any potential spoilers and stuff. Like, you've got the different channels, you've got the places that people can go and talk about things that are, like, spoilery. So I really love, like, how much love and care is put into that for your readers, to make sure that everyone gets to enjoy the journey, like, no matter where they are.
We try and do the best we can. I've got a good mod team, and it's always hard, I'm sure, if you manage groups as well, of people can have expectations of, like, just because you attempt to post something doesn't mean it gets posted, and so they're like, why didn't you post my post? And it's like, you were spoiling my book. Like, I'm not going to post it. But in general, people have been really great and really cool, and if they do something that's too spoilery, we can just be like, hey, put that in the chat, and they're cool with it. But it's been fun. It's a lot to manage, I'm sure, as social media adds so much. It's such an enriching dynamic to the work that we do, but also very time consuming, very stressful. It's its own animal,
especially when you're like going, I've got edits, I've got this, I've got that.
So I'm thinking that I'm gonna have to start. I really have to start investing in something like there's like those apps that you can use that will kind of like restrict your phone access or, you know, stuff like that, where it's like, you can
Yeah.
like, I'm a very competitive person and I love games and I love prizes. So I know that there's some apps you can do where it's like,
Yeah.
if you follow through with your goal to like not touch your phone, it like gives you points or it gives you rewards. Like, a friend of mine, an author friend of mine has one where it like, you like grow trees.
Yes.
And so
I was
yeah,
just going to say, an author friend of mine was
yeah,
talking about that the other day, the tree planting one. I was like, oh yeah, I
yeah.
probably need to get myself on that.
Yeah, but so for her, it's like that works as incentive for her because it's like I can't kill the trees, you know. It's like she's such an Enneagram 4. It's like, oh, I can't kill the trees. Whereas for me, it would be like make it a competition, like
Yeah.
me against me. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, can you beat yesterday's record? I'll be like, yes, I can. Like, give me those points.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to find an app or something.
Yeah, like give me a leaderboard and a competition, and I'll be like
Yeah.
the A-star student.
Yeah, but yeah, my gosh, it really can become just like a time suck
Yeah,
of being on social media. It's important work, but you
yeah,
also like gotta write the damn thing. You know,
yeah,
you gotta write your books if you want people to keep coming around. Like,
yeah,
to have
exactly.
something to talk about.
Yeah, which is why like we are so fucking grateful that you've been able to come and also spend all this delicious time with us and to
Yeah, no, it's lovely.
share so beautifully. And of course we will link up all the things in the show notes with the episode. Make sure you go and get yourself a copy of Tess and Ryan's delicious little journey in Puppy Wild if you haven't already. And if you haven't already discovered the Emily verse, like go fucking dive in the deep end, get in there. And I just have to say the biggest thank you. This has been amazing. I'm so grateful. And I'm just, just so it's so beautiful to witness like the journey that you're going on, like especially, you know, not only as a reader and a fan, but as an author as well, to see that.
Yeah.
Just like
You're
expanding a lot for a lot of people in a number of different ways.
I mean, I've been so inspired by the other authors that are around me, or, you know, when you have authors that you can emulate, you know, when you have authors that it's like, man, they're doing what I want to do, you know. So like I've kind of built out my list of like, who's the author that I'm 6 months behind? Who's the author that I'm 2 years behind? Who's the author that I'm going to be in 10 years, you know? And it's been kind of helpful for me to look at that and be like, what do you do? I believe a lot in manifesting. So just like manifesting your reality, and not that it always comes true, right? Dreams don't always come true. There's so many amazing authors with amazing books that are still trying to break in, you know? But I believe in the power of manifesting, and I believe in like, there is a way to do this, and you can work and you can fight, but it is so much work. My gosh, it's so much work. But yeah, I so appreciate these chances to talk with other authors, and to anything I can do. It's the teacher in me. I feel like anything I can do to like each one teach one, or like if my mistakes can spare someone else's mistakes, we could do a whole nother podcast where it's just like, Emily, tell me everything you did wrong so that I don't do it, you know? And it's just like, I don't believe in gatekeeping, and I don't believe in making it harder for people if it doesn't have to be, you know? So I'm always welcome to come in and talk to people about anything that I've done right or wrong, and help people learn, you know, make the road easier for the people that come after. So
and I think that's a beautiful way to look at it, right? That it's like there is no gatekeeping, there is no you know, well, there's no reason to be doing that, because everybody, like, nobody writes a book that is identical to another person, like, you know.
Competition, I mean, competition is great, and competition can feel good, but it's like, it can also be friendly competition. And we can all remember that it's like, for how voracious readers are, if they like my book, they'll like your book, and they're going to read them both. You know, it's like, we can all rise together, and we can all grow together. And, you know, healthy competition is what I strive for, as opposed to any kind of like rigorous, no, I can't give you my secrets, because then because then what happens, you know what I mean? It's like, then you'll outsell me or something. It's like, no, that's silly. That's just silly. So
and as much as we would love to be able to write a book a day, it's just not physically possible. So we need to we need to have the other people that, like, if you love my book, you can go here and you can like read this book and this book and this book, and then like when your next one comes out, and like this moment,
it all comes around again. So I believe in support other authors, support each other in our journeys, share what works and what doesn't work, talk about the process. And yeah, I love all of it. And I love coming on podcasts and talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me. As much as you enjoy talking to me, I always enjoy talking to people that host podcasts. So.
Yeah. Oh, you're so welcome. And thank you so much. And I just hope that everyone has absolutely loved this as much as I love getting to chat to our wonderful Dr. Emily. You're a treasure. We all love you so much. Thank you so much. Mwah.
Thank you for joining us, as always, for another episode of Successful Witches. You can find us online in all the places at successful.witches. I'm your host, Elliot Rose, and you can find me at Elliot Rose Author on Bookstagram, on BookTok, and of course we will have linked up all the relevant places you can go and connect with our wonderful indie author on today's episode. You can connect with me, you can find all our books, all in the show notes. Thanks so much for listening. If you love this episode, please remember to like, to subscribe, and to share on social media. We love to see the tags if you've been listening in or watching along. Can't wait to see you on the next episode.